Actually, I don't think so. We all think that our country is exceptional and special, and we have special problems. But the truth is, it's pretty much the same. We are faced with news avoidance. We are faced with the fact that people do not trust traditional journalism. And we are faced with the lack of trust in democratic institutions in basically all over the world. And the questions we should ask ourselves are the same in Romania as we ask them in Denmark. Are we, as journalists and media people, part of the problem? And how can we be part of the solution? I think our societies need journalism more than ever. At the same time, the conditions for producing quality journalism has never been worse, because what has financed journalism has been advertising. And people really don't want to spend so much money on news they think is depressing, news they think is biased, and news they think is overwhelming. So we have to rethink, and constructive journalism is a way of rethinking journalism, saying, can we produce journalism that is beneficial to people? Can we become the good friend of people in society instead of being a pain in the butt for people, annoying people who constantly tell them about the world is falling apart, or enhancing conflicts and giving the voice to the most rude and the most loud in society? Can journalism also build bridges? And can we ask new questions like, now what and how? Journalists, they should dare ask people, what do you really want from us? And they will most likely tell you, we don't need more, we need better. We don't need faster, but we need somebody to trust. We don't need more information, but we need somebody who cleans up the mess for us. And if we do that, we will serve the audience better. And then we should start telling the audience, why are we needed? Why do they need us as the best friend, someone to trust, someone who asks critical questions about the future to people with power, but do it because we want to improve society, not just critique it. Politicians should understand that if there's not a well-functioning independent press that people trust, then democracy and politics will fall apart. If we have no shared reality, we don't have a society. So the best things politicians could do is respect the importance of independent journalism and stay out of trying to manipulate and influence journalism in their saying. Journalists should ask critical, constructive questions to both the government and the opposition. We should not be part of any of them. We should be this third place where people can turn to say, okay, here's somebody who tried to explain us what's really going on and try to help us make better decisions in our own lives. And politicians need to understand the role of journalism. It's not just a microphone that they can use for their own good. It is forward-looking journalism that starts with a problem, but then asks, now what and how? Because people are turning their backs on traditional journalism, called news avoidance, in large numbers, mainly young people and women. We have lost them. And the reasons why people say they don't spend so much time on news anymore or try to avoid it is because they find it overwhelming, they find it is depressing, and they find they don't trust it. And we have to find ways in which we can tell our stories in a different way. We have to find ways in journalism to redefine our role, not just to be somebody who reports on what's going on or do breaking news or be aggressive and critical all the time. Of course, we should ask critical questions, but we should try to be the best friend of the public by talking about, listening to what their problems are, trying to figure out what the problem looks like, but then not stopping there, but trying to see how can that problem be solved. So we shouldn't decide how it should be solved, but we should inspire to a discussion about how can Romania improve, right? Solution journalism is part of constructive journalism. So constructive journalism is solution journalism. A good story doesn't necessarily have to be a bad story. It can also be inspirational. Number two is nuances. How can we add perspectives to the story? How can we not angle only on the white or the black, but everything in the middle? How can we do that and still make it appealing? And the last part of constructive journalism is where we try to engage audiences in a dialogue, listening to them, involving them while we are doing the story, facilitating a public discussion about how can society improve. It is important that we, dealing with Ukrainian refugees, that journalists listen to what the Ukrainian refugees think about the world, give the nuances, don't hide if there are any problems, but also say, how is it going? Listening to people and trying to find out if there are problems here, how can society address that? What are the good things? What are the problematic things? And how can we together find ways of doing that? So I think in every issue in society, which is a challenge to society or new things in society, we should think about how can journalism play a role here? So we enlighten people better, and we don't just give the microphone to those who are the most rude and the most loud. And we don't just register what's happening, but we try to explain things better and with passion and compassion. And we should try to do that. That's what we call constructive journalism. Dare to be self-critical. I mean, you will not change your hairstyle or start losing weight if you're a fat man like me, if you don't dare to look in the mirror and take the consequence of what you see. So you have to start saying, okay, why is it I am a journalist? Why did I choose this profession? And do I spend my time now to do what I really want to do? Or am I a bit frustrated with this kind of stories that I do, the clickbait stories I do? The stories I produce, which is not wrong, but they don't give a full picture, and we know. So if you start thinking there's something wrong, you're frustrated with the conditions you're working under now, you should figure out, how can I change that? How can it be done? And constructive journalism serves a vocabulary for having that conversation about how can we improve journalism? How can it be better? And I think it starts with the frustration, and then it starts with people understanding there's actually a way of doing this, which is relevant and more meaningful for the journalists doing it, but especially for the audiences receiving it. And I think we need both.